Vikings are one of the most captivating and interesting warrior cultures in history, and their reputation for being fierce raiders, conquerors, and expert sailors makes them ever popular figures that have long captured audiences' attention, especially in terms of historical movies and historical films. And an interesting fact that most viewers will most likely be unaware of is that in the late 2000s there was a monumentally ambitious Hollywood production attempting to bring an authentic Viking saga to the big screen on a truly epic scale. And the most fascinating aspect of this unreleased Viking film, sometimes referred to as Berserker, was that it was going to be spearheaded by none other than Leonardo DiCaprio, who would be collaborating with the legendary director Mel Gibson for this Viking epic. This film would have represented Leonardo DiCaprio's most ambitious historical role to date, and it could have led to rejuvenation of the historical genre. Unfortunately though, this film would never see the light of day, and in this video we will delve deep into understanding why exactly did this Viking project never come to fruition, and what exactly was planned for this epic historical film, which I am sure would have ended up being far more authentic and compelling than the Viking films that have been released ever since. But before we begin, don't forget, if you love anything to do with historical movies and historical TV shows, then subscribe to my channel, History Spark. The origins of Mel Gibson's Viking project trace all the way back to his teenage years when Mel Gibson was just 16 years old and he was studying Old Norse and Viking history. Gibson revealed in an interview that a Viking-inspired film was the first movie he ever thought about making. "I saw it in my mind back when I was a teenager," he said, further clarifying in a statement in March 2010 that "I think it will be the last film I direct. It's the thing I have been aiming towards since I was young." This declaration adds tremendous weight to just how passionate and dedicated to this Viking project Mel Gibson was, making this movie's eventual collapse all the more heartbreaking. And this Viking movie would officially be announced in December 2009 by Variety Entertainment, with an impressive roster of Hollywood talent already being associated with this project. Graham King, the Oscar-winning producer behind The Departed, would produce alongside Gibson's Icon Productions. William Monahan, who won an Academy Award for The Departed, was tapped to write the screenplay as well. And Leonardo DiCaprio, fresh off massive successes like Shutter Island and Inception, signed on to star as a Viking warrior. The project truly began when producer Graham King orchestrated an extraordinary meeting between Gibson and DiCaprio, the first time ever meeting in person to collaborate on a film. Gibson and DiCaprio sat down for an intense 5-hour meeting to discuss their mutual passion for making an authentic Viking epic. King described the meeting as electric. "We sat there 5 or 6 hours and then we had another meeting and it was the same thing." The fact that these creative minds spent over 10 hours across multiple meetings demonstrates just how committed everyone was to making this Viking saga a reality. Another thing which made Gibson's Viking project truly revolutionary was his commitment to linguistic authenticity. Following his approach in The Passion of the Christ and Apocalypto, Gibson planned to have his Viking characters speak Old Norse and 9th century Old English, trying to make the film feel as authentic and realistic as possible. Gibson was determined to avoid all the Hollywood cliches surrounding Viking history and culture. He didn't want Vikings depicted like they were in the 50s, with historically inaccurate horn helmets, armor, and weaponry. And the film's basic premise was set to depict Viking raids on England and Scotland during the 9th century, but also introduce a more human element to their Viking characters as well, as Gibson acknowledged that the real problem is making these guys sympathetic. They were monsters. And producer Graham King further elaborated on this point, stating that there's not many sympathetic Viking figures out there. You can't just show a film that is battle scene after battle scene. You have to show heroism and sympathy as well. So with the basic premise ready, a spectacularly talented production team assembled, and the most in-demand actors starring in the film, leads to the question then, why did this Viking movie never get produced? Well, the answer to this question is pretty simple, and the primary reason was due to Mel Gibson's personal conduct spiraling completely out of control in the summer of 2010. The scandal that erupted would not only kill the Viking film but nearly end Mel Gibson's entire career in Hollywood. The disaster we are referring to here traces back to January 6, 2010, when Gibson allegedly had a violent altercation with his ex-girlfriend, Oksana Grigorieva, at his Malibu mansion, with the situation remaining relatively private until July 2010, when audio recordings surfaced on RadarOnline.com that proved catastrophic for Gibson's career. These recordings captured Gibson unleashing several profanity-laced, racist, sexist, and threatening tirades that shocked Hollywood and the entire world. Radar Online posted 6 tapes in total with content so disturbing that the couple's infant daughter could be heard screaming in the background. The tapes featured Gibson using the N-word, making violent threats, and appearing to confirm he had physically assaulted Oksana Grigorieva. The reaction from Hollywood was swift and devastating. This came just 4 years after Gibson's 2006 DUI arrest, during which he had made anti-Semitic remarks to a police officer as well. The cumulative effect of these events would make Gibson a pariah in Hollywood overnight. His role in The Hangover Part 2 was removed. ABC dropped a Holocaust-themed miniseries Gibson was developing. His agent dropped him, and of course, this Viking epic in the works was also cancelled. The consequences of Mel Gibson's actions were immediate and fatal. Within days, Leonardo DiCaprio had distanced himself from the project, with the source close to DiCaprio responding definitively, "Not a chance. Leo has earned the right to pick and choose who he works with, and Mel Gibson is not one of them." Screenwriter William Monahan also publicly distanced himself from this Viking film, stating that, "No, I don't know exactly what's happening with that, except it's not going on right now." With both the star and screenwriter gone, the carefully constructed Viking epic was effectively dead. The 5-hour meetings where Gibson and DiCaprio bonded over Viking history, it meant nothing now. Gibson's lifelong dream destroyed by his own actions. But despite the exodus of all major talent from the project, Gibson never abandoned his Viking dream completely. And in February 2012, Mel Gibson revealed something shocking. The Viking project was still alive and now had a title, Berserker. Gibson had partnered with Randall Wallace, the Oscar-winning screenwriter of Braveheart, who had turned in a second draft of the script as well. This was significant. Wallace had written one of Gibson's most successful historical films to date, suggesting that Gibson was deadly serious about keeping this project alive. When asked if DiCaprio was still involved with this project, Gibson replied simply, "He's pretty busy, so no." However, Berserker became trapped in what Hollywood insiders often refer to as development hell, perpetually in pre-production without moving to actual filming. And there have been no substantial updates on Berserker since the mid-2000s, and Mel Gibson is now committed to other projects like his 2-part sequel to The Passion of the Christ, so it is safe to assume that Berserker has been unofficially scrapped or will remain in development hell indefinitely. The failure of this project demonstrates how personal conduct can destroy even the most well-developed film ideas. Gibson's Viking saga had everything: an Oscar-winning director with a proven track record, one of Hollywood's biggest stars, an Oscar-winning screenwriter, and a director's lifelong passion for the project. Yet it all collapsed within weeks due to Gibson's terrible behavior. The untitled Gibson DiCaprio Viking film stands as one of modern Hollywood's most tantalizing what-if scenarios. If Gibson had managed to control his behavior just a few months longer, we might have witnessed an unprecedented Viking epic film that could have revolutionized the historical film genre. But instead we got nothing. Gibson's teenage dream, the film he thought would be his last, was destroyed by his own actions, and he had no one to blame but himself. So let me know in the comments below if you think DiCaprio would have made a compelling Viking warrior, and whether Gibson's commitment to linguistic authenticity would have made Berserker the definitive Viking film of the genre. And as always, if you want to stay up to date with everything to do with historical movies and historical TV shows, then subscribe to my channel, History Spark, and thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Bye.